What's up, guys? I don't know why I gotta something pushing me to do this video. Done two of them and I didn't like them. 30 minutes long, so I'm gonna try to keep this one short. Gonna talk VALVETRAIN. I'm gonna try to keep it on track for VALVETRAIN as best as I can. A lot of people like to skimp on VALVETRAIN. They like to overlook it, skimp on it completely. I see guys that take GT40 heads or a pair of even aluminum heads. They just bolt them on. They don't care about springs. They don't care about rocker arms, or they just toss the stuff on. The GT40 head guys are usually the worst because, yeah, I bought a set of $50 heads and I put them on my Mustang and it went a tenth faster. Woo! Feels way different. I'm sure it does for the first 4,500 RPM. GT40 heads need valve springs immediately, no matter what. Valve springs are only meant to rev to like 5,000. Explorer cams don't have, the truck cams are weak. The other day, somebody tried to sell me a Lightning cam, and the thing was like 400 and I don't even know if it was 430 lift, to be honest. I think it was something even worse than that. But I was like, wow, it was total garbage. So what can you get away with exactly? I guess would be the question. It's a stock rocker arm. This is a Crane Gold. These were top of the line back when Crane was in business. I think they're out of business now, but this used to be a top of the line rocker. The gold stuff. Now, there's a pretty big difference. I mean, you can see how much this is aluminum, obviously, and they weigh about the same, but this has a lot more material in it. All you got is this little slot for the poly lock to go in, roller, instead of this slider here. That's this little cup sits in there like that, and this slides. It's got drag on it. Just pick up a little bit there. You know, this thing will spin relatively easy. And this don't have pressure on it. But when this is under pressure and you're trying to push a valve spring and it's pushing up, this is going to make for a lot of tension in this area here and cause drag, especially with RPM. Now these rockers, I gotta admit, I'm impressed on how Ford did these. For as crappy as this might look, this is a 9-second capable item. And I'm not talking 9s at like 5,500 RPM. I'm talking I've taken these to 8 quite a few times. Once on an engine or on a chassis dyno. And we actually could see deflection. And after that, I did buy rockers. But I revved the car to 8,000 on a chassis dyno, and we could see spikes in the dyno graph as power was falling off, of course, because my car don't make power to 8,000. It loses it around, I think, 6,500 or so on the dyno. I don't know how many passes I had where I revved it to 7. But we saw deflection. If I remember correctly, I want to say it was over 6,500. Just say over 6,500. But I mean, I was taking the car to $7,000. You know, beating snot out of it. 8,000 in the burnout box because it sounded cool. You know, and they lived. Like when I took them off, they're still together. I never broke one. I'm not saying it's the best thing since sliced bread, but Ford did a good job. I give them credit here. This is a crappy, like you look at this thing, it is nothing spectacular. It's a piece of stamped steel. That's all it is. So deflection, for those of you who don't know, is this part we're going to call this, I don't know, I guess the tip of the rocker, where it hits the valve. When you start pushing and turning RPM, pushing that valve down at high RPM, the tip of this rocker starts deflecting, or in other words, flexing, and it'll actually start bouncing on the tip of that valve, if that valve is steady with a good spring on it. If you have a bad spring, then the spring's going to take the brunt of the RPM, and it's going to cause valve fluke. If the spring is good and it's stable, keeping the valve stable, this will deflect and it'll flex, and actually, say this is the rocker tip, it'll actually do this. And more RPM, it'll start chattering that valve on top of the valve as the valve is trying to go up and down. So you got your rocker arm movement, and then you have valve tip movement with the thing deflecting at that high RPM, hence the graph spiking. So this would not be ideal for a high rev situation, obviously, which anybody who's into drag racing and been around the block a couple times knows that. I will say they are a great rocker for something under 6,500. You can't beat a factory Ford, just basic, fold them down and go, no adjustment. It's nice, pedestal mount. It's like an LS, or LS is like a Ford rather. It's one of the things they copied, the pedestal mount. And I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying that, but it's the truth. They copied that from Ford. That is a Ford design. Ford, as far as I know, Ford is the first pedestal mount rocker. And other than LS, I don't know another company that used pedestal mount rockers. So if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, go ahead. I'm always down to learn something. But they are simple. They're basic. I always just throw them down. I don't do the torque thing in a half turn or whatever the bull crap is, like 20 foot-pounds and a half turn or something is how you're supposed to set them. But I just take my impact gun and burp, 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 and send it. That's it. Make sure they're tight. Now, when you go to something like this, these have failure if you buy cheap. And I know that from personal experience. I grenaded a motor because I had a cheap rocker. Long story short, the roller tip broke and it acted like a valve spring tool, compressed the spring, popped the keepers out, valve went into piston exploded, broke rod took out oil pan and block, and there was piston and block laying on my frame rail of the car. Found the roller tip in the valve cover with the shaft. It was a bad time. The only time I grenaded an engine. Fun fact. So do not buy cheap brand crap when it comes to VALVETRAIN. If it's eBay, Amazon, ProComp, Speedmaster, I wouldn't trust their rocker arms or their lifters. I do have the belt drive for the small block Chevy. I'm going to try that, and we're going to learn if it's good or not. For this stuff, another reason for failure that I think is overlooked is these require or have a seat pressure max on them, meaning they can only handle X amount of seat pressure. So seat pressures measured the spring, how much pressure is on the seat of that spring. So let's say you have a valve spring that has a 300-pound seat pressure, and you have a rocker. Say you buy a nice set of aftermarket rockers, and you don't pay attention to the seat pressure. You're going to have So you bought a rocker, you didn't pay attention to the seat pressure, right? You bought this rocker, it's got 250 pound seat pressure max rating, and you have a 300 pound pressure spring. It's going to break the rocker. Maybe not right away, but it's going to break the rocker. Now, I said the pro comp issue I had, that very well could have been a seat pressure issue. Maybe that rocker arm wasn't recommended for that seat pressure, because I didn't know that back then. I actually just found this out, I guess about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And I was looking at rockers for the Green Mustang, Scorpions. I'm looking at what I thought was the same rocker at two different prices. Why is that two different prices? Why is one $250 and the other one's $350, $400? What's going on here? So I started reading, and I found out that they have a different seat pressure load. So I got the better ones. This stuff does wear out. It gets old. All this is bearings in here. You know, these are actually old. I got this stuff cheap. I bought this and these lifters here. Might have put it in the last video I put out. I can't remember. But I got these lifters and these rockers for $150 for both. And these are hydraulic roller conversion lifters from PBM. I've heard and read some good things about PBM, so willing to give them a try, see how they do. For the price, it's worth it to try it. It's not going in something too radical. Probably going to go on the Fairmont. And it's not getting nothing crazy in it. So, this stuff too. Another thing I want to go over is inspecting your parts. You can see this rocker spins beautifully. You know, I hear a little gritty noise when I spin it. You know, might have something in it. So I'm going to have to go through them, clean them. You know, this stuff hasn't really been inspected. But like I said, I made 2 other videos. So I found this out. Now I'm holding this rocker on the roller right now. Now, I know a couple guys that will watch this video and know what's wrong with this picture immediately. I want to show you guys what's wrong with it. Now notice the difference on how I'm holding this rocker with my left hand. See that? Show you again. If I push it up, it falls because nose heavy. This one's not. See that? Look. See how it stops? Shouldn't be standing straight up. If I stand this one straight up, it falls backwards. Because nose heavy. It's going to go where the weight goes. It wants to be upside down. Physics. Got to check your stuff. Make sure it's not seized up. This can cause a problem. Now I'll be pulling this apart and cleaning it. You can see there's some rust. Might have got water in it. Might be rust in there on the needles, needle bearings or something. Hopefully they're not. Hopefully I can clean it and take care of it. I never really took one apart like I'm going to this one. Never had to. Even new, check this stuff. Check this movement. Check this roller tip movement. This needs to roll smooth as well. You know, if this thing isn't moving, cause a problem. Especially here. This is important. This might not cause catastrophic failure. This has potential to. So I'll show you one more time. Might sound like a broken record. It might be, you guys might watch this and go, what is he, stupid? Stupid is what stupid does. But this is a big deal. Like, this is potential failure. So it's already at a failure point. So this is already a failed rocker immediately. And you might think, well, it does rock back and forth. Yes, it does now. And it might wear away where this gets easier. It already has gotten easier. That's kind of not a good thing. But even new, this stuff can be like this. And it shouldn't. If you buy a set of rockers, it sits in a warehouse. All it takes is a leaky roof or even a leaky trailer. Work for FedEx. I see it all the time. We get trailers in, they leak. Even if the trailer don't leak, where you unload the boxes into the warehouse, when you back the trailer up, they got like a skirt. It holds water. They leak. I get dripped on when I work on stuff at work sometimes. That's all it takes is for that box to be sitting in that wet spot, that rocker to get wet, and now you have a bad rocker. Call the company, get a new one. Should be easy. Should be able to, this thing will go around when I spin it. Look at that. What is that, 3 rotations, as long as I don't fly it out of my hand? See? Goes right around. This one, what's that, half a rotation, maybe 1 full rotation when I really, Now, for me, that's expected. I paid $150 for the stuff, is what it is, I'm not worried about it. But I'll go through it. I'll get it where it works better. If I think it's runnable, I'll run it. If I think that they're going to be a problem, I won't run it. And I'll still use the lifters and try those, as long as that stuff checks out good. Inspecting your parts is a big deal. Push rods, look through the hole, blow through them, all 16. Check all 16 rockers. Check your valve springs. Make sure there's no cracks in them. Check your poly locks. Check all that stuff. You should be inspecting parts anyway, but check it. A buddy of mine, just recently, I'm not going to put his name out there, but he got a brand new top end kit from Edelbrock. Puts the motor together, looked in the intake, didn't think nothing of it, bolted everything up, started the car for a customer, it's a shop, and motor blows up. Weird. What happened? Pulls it apart, finds hardware in there. Edelbrock put the hardware in the intake, but they put it so far down in the intake runner that he didn't see it. Now, I don't know if he looked down every runner and shined a flashlight. I can't say he inspected it that way. I wasn't there. Accidents happen. They have a claim in with Edelbrock. Edelbrock's trying to make it right. So respect to Edelbrock on that. Hopefully they figure something out and everybody's happy. But inspect your stuff. That's all it takes, man. And especially with VALVETRAIN items. That was just an example I wanted to use because it was something easily overlooked. It could have been prevented, but it happened. Caused catastrophic failure, fresh motor, whatever it was, that is now toast, trash. Same thing with this VALVETRAIN stuff. You should do it with all your parts, but VALVETRAIN stuff especially is important. All it takes is one little piece of grit. I mean, I don't know if you can see on my finger, I picked up a piece of metal off this table. That's all it takes. Don't buy the cheapest crap. Don't try to skimp on VALVETRAIN. I get people all the time that want to save $1 with VALVETRAIN, and I tell them, you can do what you want to do, but If it breaks, is it worth it? Now, if you got a free motor and you want to put, honestly, I'm going to say stock crap's better than aftermarket, but let's say somebody gave you a setup for free. They gave you a junk 302 and a set of old trick flows. I don't know. A set of old crappy twisted wedge standard trick flow heads with no markings on the front of them or nothing. And you put the motor together and you go, hey, I just need a set of rockers. I want to run this thing. And you buy a set of Pro Comp rockers. Is it worth it? If they break, think about if it breaks when you buy this stuff. If it breaks, is it worth it to blow the motor up over those rockers? Now, you got it for free, so what are you out? Your time? Okay. In that scenario, maybe you could use that Pro Comp rocker. Personally, I just buy a good rocker because it's not worth it. Find a set used even if you have to. Check them. When you go look at them, check them. Make sure they work easy. They move smooth if you want to pull stuff apart. And check it that way after you buy it. You know, if you're comfortable with doing that like I am, then by all means. But check it. Make sure it's right. VALVETRAIN is not something to mess with. So I wasn't going to make another half-hour video, and we're already 20 minutes in. Hopefully I covered everything here. I really went over like rockers and you know, mainly rockers. A little bit of seat pressure. Valve springs, make sure you're putting a good valve spring on. You know, make sure your seat pressures and stuff are all good with what cam you're using. I like to go a little on the high side with seat pressure. I rather have it be too strong than not strong enough. I'm honestly pretty bad at checking seat pressure. But it's just something I got to learn more about. But I do understand how important it is. And, you know, I have people in my circle, if you want to call it that, that are good with it, and I ask their expertise when it comes to seat pressure. So you know, hey, what spring would you recommend? These ones, okay. And I either buy them or I find them, whatever the case may be, or if they have them laying around, oh, I got a set you can use. Thankfully, I've gotten lucky like that, where they've been around brand new in the box. Yeah, here, just take them, figure it out later. You know, and they're on the car. But, I might have bought the last set. I can't remember now, but check that stuff. Make sure it's right. Don't get cheap crap when it, you know, get name brand stuff. When it comes to VALVETRAIN, I like name brand stuff. Pack Racing makes some pretty good springs. I've had good luck with their stuff. You know, obviously, when you start getting into Jessel territory, that stuff's big dollars, good stuff, beautiful stuff. TRD is pretty decent. Pretty sure that's what TRD, I think, is one, and Yellow Terra. They make some pretty decent stuff. That's relatively, it's on the cheaper side. Getting into Jessel territory, it's still expensive, but it's cheaper. Crane, obviously, Comp, you know, those companies, Lunati, Howard's, you know, they all make stuff. So there's the Scorpion. I like Scorpion. That's what's on my car. Scorpion and Yellow Terras. The LS stuff, you can do like the trunnion upgrade for the rockers. You know, that's common on them. And it's something I do recommend because it's cheap enough to do. But even that stuff, check it. You know, after you press it together, make sure it works how it should. And, you know, they have VALVETRAIN issues anyway, the LS motors, but that's a whole different conversation. Push rods, check all your holes, look through them. You know, if they got a little grit in there, something, blow them out. Just check it. I know I'm being repetitive, but I can't press the issue enough. Check the stuff. Make sure it's good. Just don't toss it in. Say, hey, I got parts in the motor. Check it. Make sure it's good. The other day I had a lifter want to go into the bore. Got a couple of different lifters over there for the small block Chevy that I'm putting together. You know, they're the same but different. But I go to slide one in, all the other ones are sliding in, and one doesn't want to go in. I tried in a couple different holes, and it wouldn't go in. So that tells me that either the lifter swelled or there's something wrong with that lifter. So I took it off the link bar and put a different one on and right in. You know, check your cams. I could go real in depth with this, and it's all important. Even your timing chain and gear, check, make sure there's no burrs, no rounded gears, no tooths or teeth broken off. Check the chain, the rollers on the chain, make sure there's no grit and all that stuff. Just check it all. Make sure it's all clean and good. And, you know, my dad will probably watch this and be like, hey, he's one to preach about that, you know, but he tells me all the time, and he's right. When, you know, I know he's right. There's just sometimes where I don't listen. But that's on me. I'm doing the work, and if I break something, then I have to fix it. So, you know, some stuff I'm bad with it. And I should probably care more with certain things, but there's some stuff where I just let it go, and it is what it is. But, you guys, I don't want to see you have a problem or run into a mistake, and, you know, if you can prevent it, prevent it. I'm in my stuff. My stuff usually comes apart a couple times when I set stuff or I look at stuff or whatever the case may be. You know, I beat the crap out of my stuff, but, you know, I pull valve covers off and things for bullcrap reasons, just because I want to sometimes, you know, like, they're easy to pull off. So I'll look and see and check and do whatever and put it back together, you know. But every item you buy, new, used, I don't care what it is, check it, look at it, love it, rub it, clean it, put it in, make sure it's installed correctly. There's a procedure, like the lifters, you're supposed to soak them in oil if they're hydraulic. That way they're solid when you put them in, don't bleed down and stuff. Do all that stuff the way manufacturer wants you to. And this way it's done right. And when you put it together, it stays together, and hopefully you have longevity out of it. I've seen a lot of crap with the flat tappet cams. Having problems, bad material. The problem with this issue is you don't know what you're getting off the shelf. Some people are having better luck with them now. You don't know if they're getting a new core. You know, when stuff gets stocked, they're not bringing the old one to the front and then putting the other box, the new ones to the back. Usually the old ones get slid back and the new ones go in, and you take the first one off the shelf and you put the new one right in front. That's how that stuff usually goes. That being said, if Summit has 3 of them in stock and 3 guys order a cam, that third guy might be beat. And I say that because he's going to get the old cam. That could be good and that could be bad. Because if you get one old enough where it was made 15 years ago, it might be a good core. But if you get one that was made 5 years ago, most chances are it's a bad core. So if you get the bad core, you're going to be sitting there with a cam that's flat, all right. All the lobes are flat. So just when you're ordering a flat tappet cam, be careful. You know, there's people who have good luck with them, and there's people who have bad luck with them. I've seen guys run them and love them, and I've seen guys where they put them in. There's a guy right now on Facebook, he's been through 2 of them, and they're flattened out. So that tells me it's a core issue, or he's worried about spring pressure, which that does if you got the wrong spring pressure on a flat, if it's overdone, it can wipe it. But you know, that's a whole nother subject. That's, like I said, the stuff has to match. Seat pressures, all that. Check it. You know, these cam companies, they can recommend you stuff and tell you what to get, and you know, it should be correct, unless you got somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about on the phone. But these companies like Comp, Lunati, they're usually pretty good with that stuff. So, you know, if you call someone like Bullet, you know, they got some pretty good knowledge. So they can tell you, hey, you know, this is the seat pressure you need for this cam with these numbers, you know, buy this spring. They'll recommend you the parts, the rockers, all that stuff. They can recommend you all that, and you can order that stuff. I wouldn't cut corners there. So, 30 minutes. I apologize for the long video. I think the information here is necessary, and I think it's important, and hopefully it helps somebody out. So, if you guys got any questions about it, feel free to message me. You know, if there's something maybe I missed that you wanted to know. If you want to see any particular videos, you know, I'll try to make them. But this is one that was on my mind. And, like I said, I felt like something was pushing me to make this. So maybe it'll be in time for somebody to guide them in the right direction if they see it, hopefully. Be nice to know that somebody's out there listening, I guess. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully, like I said, it helps somebody out, and I'll see you guys around. Until next time.